is out to V's Pelzer here, your voice manager, and I am the host of the Speakeasy podcast, where we go behind the scenes, talk about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker or author. Guys, this episode right here, representation is key. And it's interesting because there's so many ways that I can go with this topic. There's like many, it's like a 360 of direction that I can go with this topic. But I wanted to highlight a particular story that I saw and then tie it into why you, no matter what topic it was that you were supposed to be talking about, or, what thing you overcame in your life, that your voice is needed because representation is key. And so listening to today's episode, but I really want to hear your voice. So come and join us over in the hashtag World Voice League community over on Facebook. It's hashtag World Voice League group on Facebook. I want to hear your story of representation. I want to hear your feedback from this particular episode because, man, this is crazy. Listen in. Okay, guys, so you guys know that I normally do like this whole thing where I do research for the podcast. I always try to have some topics on hand when, there's something happens. We have a tech issue or a guest can't come in or, whatever the may happen, the life of a podcaster, right? And so I'm sitting and I'm doing my research for this particular episode, and I come across an article that just completely turned my stomach. And some of you are going to say, well, oh goodness, what is it? Is it somebody else getting, is it police brutality? Is it, it's not, but it just may as well have been in. Okay, let me tell you what happened. So in Jacksonville, apparently, a little girl, a 6-year-old, was removed from her school. She was taken into police custody and taken to a mental facility where she was given meds, and she was locked in a room by herself at the age of 6, all without her parents' permission. I know, your mouth just hit the freaking floor. I get it, because mine hit the floor, and I was reading it. Imagine. I can only imagine hearing it and your mouth hitting the floor. So apparently there's a thing called Baker's Law. Baker's Law in Jacksonville is that, if it's deemed that the person is a hazard or is disruptive or however you want to place it, that as young as the age of 2, your child can be literally removed from the school grounds and sent to a mental institution where they can be medicated without your permission. I know. I had to take a pause as well. That's crazy, right? Now, they're saying that the young lady she's diagnosed with a mood disorder. She's diagnosed as ADHD. Great. Understood. Granted. So, but they're also saying that, again, this law allows them to do this to children as young as 2. So here's why I say, as a speaker, there's no way that you can say that the industry is saturated. Like, I get it. We want to say there's people literally speaking about everything and anything, right? But reality check is, I need you to understand something. Guess what? There's literally people going through this issue right now. Imagine you getting a call that your 2-year-old was in a facility, or that you found out from you going to pick up your 2-year-old, because they didn't have to call the parents. You just go to pick up your child from school and your child is in a mental facility. It's crazy. But this is why I say representation is key. And this is why I influence people to speak out and speak up when it comes to whatever it is that is their industry, their niche. Why? Because there's somebody that needs to be speaking out against this and create a better way to implement this law. There needs to be somebody speaking out against this for the little girls and the little boys that are going and being placed into a facility away from their parents. And she was there for 2 days. 2 days, guys. Could you imagine your child being placed away from you for 2 days? Crazy. And so I needed you guys to get this understanding because it goes on such a broader scale. Whatever it is that you speak about as a speaker, it's valuable. It's important. And I don't know if somebody dropped the ball and that's why this law has still been in place, or maybe just the right person has not had it happen to them yet. Because when the right person has it happen, they're going to make sure that a law gets changed. They're going to fight for it. When you think about a speaker is actually a representative or an advocate at times. And they're advocating for different things. So they're advocating for a better life. They're advocating for better business practices. They're advocating for better communication, better networking. They're advocating for different areas of life that they want to see improved. As a speaker, when you step on stage, you want to see something change in the audience's life. You want to see something improve in the audience's life. Now, granted, I'll give it to you. There are some speakers that get on stage that could care less about if you actually changed. They're more worried about the dollars and cents. I get it. That's every industry. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. That's every industry. But I need you to have an understanding that that's not what speakers are all about. And anybody who's ever had a bad sour taste in their mouth from a speaking opportunity, a speaking event where you went and they just sold and sold and sold from the stage, I apologize for that experience. But as a speaker, when I stand on stage, I want to see a change happen within somebody within the audience. I want to empower them. I want to educate them so something changes, so they move to a different level within business and in life. Maybe that's just me. May just be. But I need you to understand, is it just me? Like, really? Is it just me that's feeling this way? Is it just me that's having this understanding? I mean, I really don't get it. And so I thought about this particular scenario with this young lady. At age 6, could you imagine you having a ride in the back of a police car? At the age of 6, how impressionable is that? Like, I can understand when you say a child at a higher age where it could be very tough for because of their weight, because of their height, and I get that. But the age of 6, what have you now altered in that child's mind? That child is going to, and this is just the simplest things. That child would look at the police as somebody who took them somewhere where they couldn't be with their parents. So is that really giving them an honest representation of police? And these are just questions. Maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't. But at the age of 6, somebody locking you in a room, what's the trauma that comes with that? At the age of 6, you not being able to come out of a room. Maybe y'all don't remember, but there were times where this was regular parenting, right? You go into your room. Well, you're not necessarily being locked in your room, but you having to go into your room for a timeout. But imagine going to your room and not being able to see your parents, or not being able to interact with your parents, or your parents not even knowing where you are. That's crazy. What is the mindset that has now been the seed that has been planted within that child? Because now what you've told that child is, if I really want to be disruptive, I can be disruptive, and all you're going to do is give me a 2-day vacation somewhere. As the child gets older into high school, you don't know how that's going to affect them. But this is not my area to speak on because I've never dealt with it. So as a speaker, is this the area you're supposed to be speaking about? Is this the area where you're supposed to be going to schools and finding programs so that way people know how to better handle children with ADHD? Are you the parent or the child that used to be going through something like this? Are you the one that's the adult now who can go back and empower somebody else? And how about this? We don't even have to wait for you to be an adult. Are you a child that knows this feeling? And you can go back and inspire and empower the youth and give them alternatives for them lashing out. But to put a 6-year-old in the back of a police car? To medicate a 6-year-old without the permission of a parent? I don't know how I like that, y'all. Representation is so valuable. This is what we fought for so many years, right? Representation. And not just representation, but we fight for representation when it comes to movies and when it comes to, song choices. And we fight for representation in so many other ways. And yet, here it is. We got real live scenarios of kids being impacted in an area where they don't have representation. Who's speaking for the child with ADHD? Who's speaking for the parent of a child with ADHD? And so that's why I always tell people, somebody can say, oh no, it's a saturated market. I can't be a speaker. It's already a bunch of speakers. Why? It's not. Same thing with books. People say it's a saturated market. Well, obviously not, because there's still somebody that did not learn that there are alternative ways to handle a child with ADHD. Everything doesn't have to be drug-induced. So obviously there's not enough books. There's not enough speakers. There's not enough events. There couldn't be enough because we still have laws like Baker's Law. And granted, this is just one of the laws that are out there, guys. I'm trying to tell you, there's tons. Many of us don't even know all of the laws that go into effect or that our state has until we come into a point where we're back up against the wall dealing with the law. We don't even see everything that's out there that's going on. That's why representation matters. That's why we need more speakers and authors. That's why there is no such thing as there's no opportunities. Why isn't there? That's a whole program dealing with ADHD youth. That's a whole program. It's a whole training. You just created a whole system. But you so focused on the fact that you don't want to tell nobody that you were diagnosed with ADHD or ADD. You're standoffish because you don't want anybody to think wrongly about you having to take medication for something like this. But here it is, that 6-year-old little girl, were you supposed to be the one teaching her teachers a better way for them to interact with her? Were you supposed to be the one that's advocating with her parent? Are you supposed to be the one that's advocating with her broke my heart. I'm going to tell you. I was looking at the video and I was watching it and I said, wow. And the mother said, because of what she deals with, she can't properly articulate everything that happens. But she knows, she said, Mommy, they took me out of school. They gave me a shot. They locked me in a room. Man, I can't imagine as a parent that feeling, because I've had to advocate for my children in many scenarios where you wouldn't even think that I would have to advocate for my children. I've had to, at church, in schools, I've had to advocate for my sister when we were going through the process of getting her out the system. I mean, just literally being the voice of someone else as a speaker. This is what we do. And yet, there are still so many that need us. But we're scared to step out on it. We're scared to step in the world and really go 100% in it. That's the other piece, is we want to kind of stick our toe in it, and then if it don't really work out, we got our job to fall back on. And, or we want to stick our little, our pinky finger in and swish it around a little bit, but we don't really want to step into it 100%. But I'm telling you, if you step into it 100%, not only will you see that it is a business idea that comes from it, but you'll also be able to understand that this is life work here. I get it. It's scary. There's nobody that's going to tell you that jumping into something like this is not scary. And if they do, mom pluck them to the forehead. No, don't do that. But they do need a mom pluck to the forehead if they tell you that this is going to be easy. No, I advocate for women that have been through domestic violence. Do you know that there are still people that victim blame? There's still people that don't understand the mindset of someone who's been through abuse. And so they look at you and they expect you to do things as everyone else does. They expect you to show up as everyone else shows up. They expect you to be a replica and a robot. And guess what, guys? You're not. You're an individual. And so there's a reason why stories like these pull on my heartstring. For me, I'm a mom, and so that's one of the reasons it pulls on my heartstring. But as an advocate, I've advocated for my children in several different ways. And so that's another reason it just pulls on my heartstring. And so I need you guys to understand that sometimes the reason why something is pulling on your heartstring is something that you're supposed to talk about. It's something that you're supposed to advocate for. It's something that you're supposed to be doing. Like, you're supposed to be the person on the stage talking about it, or in community groups talking about it, at your church talking about it. And you're supposed to be that one. And for me, it pulled on my heartstring because as a podcaster, I was supposed to bring it to the speaking and author industries. Like, no more sitting back and second guessing your power and your gifting and your talent. No, I was supposed to bring it to you as a podcaster, but you're supposed to receive it as a speaker or an author and say, my voice does matter. Because representation is key. How valuable is that, right? My voice does matter because representation is key. So I need you guys to have that understanding. Make sure that if you haven't done so already, and you're saying, you know what, I'm ready to be the speaker, I'm ready to be the author, connect with me. I have so many contacts, guys. It doesn't even matter if it's me that you connect with or someone else that I can connect you with. But let's get that voice heard in 2020. Like, no holding back. No holding back. Why? Because guess what? There is somebody somewhere that you could be advocating for right now. There's someone that you could be the representation that they need. And so with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you, because there is no Speak Easy podcast without the hashtag Speak Easy podcast listeners. I appreciate you, each and every one of you. Make sure that you go and leave us a review, because your reviews matter. Yes, they do. will. Shout out to the last couple people who've given reviews. We're about to start reading your reviews on the air. That part, because we appreciate you so much. So you can give us a review over on Podchaser, or you can give us a review by going to bit.ly/Speakeasy Podcast Show, all lowercase. Let us know how you feel about this particular episode. Is this the one that's going to spark something for you? It just may. It just might. I hope it does. With that being said, I am your host, Altavice Pelzer, your voice manager. How about that? We're not even saying your voice manager. I'm going to help you have your voice heard. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. I'm super excited to connect with you guys. Why? Because we got even greater things coming down the pipeline. With that being said, until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.